What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Today is Monday, which means Monday Mail Day. I'm back. Got a lot of good questions. Danny Jacobs versus Peter Quillin just happened this weekend. And without further ado, let's get into the questions. First question comes from Christian Boswell. Boxing Ego, Q&A. Given the fact that Danny Jacobs recently made some noise in his division, do you think he will now start getting the Andre Ward type of hate? I don't know if it'll be quite as bad as Andre Ward because they fight a little bit different. I would say for a casual fan, Danny Jacobs, he has a very aggressive style versus Ward is more of a systematic, break you down, more meticulous type of fighter. So maybe that fan group, that core group would like Danny Jacobs. But I'm seeing, since he's being mentioned as a possible opponent and possibly having a better, as Showtime alluded to, better resume than Gennady Golovkin, he's certainly getting that Andre Ward type of hate or some type of hate based on that beating Peter Quillin because he's a threat to Gennady Golovkin. Not saying he beats Golovkin, but he's in talks and people are buzzing about his performance and what he did with Peter Quillin versus Triple G. So anytime we know Triple G is a rising star and his fan base is getting radical. You know what I'm saying? You're a lot of Triple G fans who I don't even really think, I'm not saying all Triple G fans, but some of them, I don't even all think that they're diehard fans of the sport. You can tell by the comments they leave and what they say and their lack of knowledge on the game. So yeah, he's definitely receiving an increased amount of hate. I'm hearing people say like, oh, David Lemieux is a better win and David Lemieux would knock out Jacobs and knock out Quillin. Like, my thing is this, based on what? Like, what? I don't understand. People just throw out predictions and that's it, just because I said it. You know what I'm saying? To me, what has David Lemieux done? He's been stopped before. Jacobs has been stopped before. They've both been stopped once. So based on that performance and how spectacular he looked against the undefeated fighter in Kid Chocolate, Peter Quillin, who can crack and who's big, what makes you think that Danny Jacobs would lose to David Lemieux? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I suggest for the boxing fans. Really hold these fans to some type of standard and make them explain what they're talking about, because a lot of people want to do these drive-bys and flybys where they just say something like Floyd Mayweather's a bitch, Danny Jacobs sucks, Lemieux knocks him out, you know what I'm saying? But they don't explain nothing. So that's, hopefully we can get boxing back to that, where no matter who you pick, you can at least break it down and why you feel that way. Next question is from ZP Goldman. Hey Ego, love the videos and keep them coming. Who do you think is a bigger threat to Triple G, Danny Jacobs or TUREANO Johnson? Both of them I think could make interesting fights. I would still favor Triple G in both of those fights. However, I would say based on Danny Jacobs, how he looked versus Peter Quillin and him being a WBA belt holder, I would definitely have to say him because he just looked so good versus Peter Quillin. Obviously, we don't have that much data because it only lasted one round, but the fact that he was able to hurt Peter Quillin that bad and do what no one else has been able to do with Peter Quillin. Peter Quillin had close fights with like Gabe Rosado, but again, nobody has done that to him. Andy Lee knocked Peter Quillin down. Peter Quillin knocked Andy Lee down, and it resulted in a draw. I think I got to watch it again, but I had Peter Quillin winning by like a round or two versus Andy Lee, but a draw is fair. But bottom line, no one did what Danny Jacobs did to Peter Quillin. So based on that performance, I would have to pick him. But TUREANO Johnson could pose some threats based on his style. I really want to see, that's what I got to see with every fighter. Triple G is no exception. Some of you guys want him to be the exception. But a lot of times when he's fought bigger guys, they don't have no power, right? TUREANO Johnson is at least a rugged type of smothering style. So I want to see how Triple G would do against someone like a TUREANO Johnson who's just going to be on top of you, has a pretty good chin and that kind of thing. And then Danny Jacobs, again, he has that championship mindset. He's beat cancer, so he to me is strong mentally. Anybody who can beat a crippling disease like that, you have to be pretty tough. You know what I mean? Some people would succumb to their ailments and stuff. So both good fights. I would say Danny Jacobs based on his performance. I mean, he just went in there. TUREANO Johnson, I watched him on the Triple G Lemieux card. He fought O'Kane, and he looked pretty good. Had a knockdown in that fight. I think he got a stoppage later in the later rounds. But what we seen from Danny Jacobs was against a top 5 middleweight former champion who gave up his belt, and that's the only reason he wasn't a champion in Peter Quillin, and he destroyed him. So I would say Triple G versus Danny Jacobs. I would love to see that. Next question is from Fernandez Harris. Ego, how about Jacobs versus Triple G? Were you impressed with Jacobs' first round stoppage? Great job by the Miracle Man. And then an emoji. Kind of picking up from the last question from Goldman. Yes, I was definitely impressed. Like I said, I didn't do an official prediction, but I would have leaned towards Peter Quillin. That's who I thought would win. I thought he would stop Gennady Jacobs. He proved me and a lot of other people wrong who were picking Peter Quillin to overwhelm Gennady Jacobs. I mean, he gave him no room to breathe, stayed on top of him, did what champions do. I mean, you get a man hurt and you finish him. There's nothing else that he could have did different. You could say, oh, the ref, premature stoppage. I initially said that too because I'm a boxing fan. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we're selfish and we want to see it keep going and end in a more traditional way. But, I mean, realistically, it's Peter Quillen's fault. He should have clinched. He should have took a knee. If you're getting hit with that many unanswered punches, the fight will be stopped. Period. So you got to deal with it. And if you don't want to deal with it, then throw some punches back and hope you don't get clipped. Grab and hold, clinch, hold on for dear life, take a knee. You know what I mean? Hell, I mean, I'm not condoning fighting dirty, but shit, I've seen it. When people are getting hurt, they start doing illegal shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? They start hitting them in the nuts or something. I've seen it plenty of times. So, again, I'm not saying that's a strategy that everyone should employ, but fuck, if you need to survive, you know what I mean? And you have to, and Brandon Rios, like when he was chopping up Lamont Peterson's brother, Anthony Peterson, he started hitting Brandon Rios in the dick. Like, again, I'm not saying do anything that'll get you disqualified, but you don't want to get stopped either. So, you know what I mean? Sometimes I've seen fighters resort to that. So, ultimately, it's not a premature stoppage. Ref had to make an executive decision, and Peter Quillin didn't really leave him with many choices. So, I would love Jacobs versus Triple G. It's a good fight, two middleweights, and it's a different style. Like, again, we're talking about most of the powerful guys that I could think of, if any, that Triple G fought, they're all smaller than him, shorter than him. Gennady Jacobs is maybe an inch taller, or at least the same size as Triple G. I think Triple G's 5'10 and a half, 5'11, and Gennady Jacobs is a 6-footer, and he has power, and he has an amateur background, like he said in the post-fight. Check it out on my video. But he fought Sean Porter in the amateur 6 times. You know what I mean? That's good work. That's good experience. So, yeah, I would love it. I'm not saying he beats Triple G, but hell, I didn't expect him to beat Quillin, and he proved me wrong, so I'm all for that fight. Next question is from King Kawain. Ego, who should the winner of Quillin-Jacobs fight next? Kind of ties into the other questions. Triple G, I would love Jacobs, since we know he was the winner of that particular fight. I would love Jacobs versus Triple G. Jacobs versus Andy Lee versus Saunders winner, Billy Joe Saunders winner, or the Chris Eubank if he beats the Sullivan. I think those are all great fights for him. I mean, even for a Brooklyn showdown, like just if he wants a softer touch or doesn't have to fulfill a mandatory, or a deal can't be reached since Golovkin typically fights on HBO and Jacobs is with Heyman, I would say even a Curtis Stevens BK fight. You know what I mean? They're both from Brooklyn. That'll be another Brooklyn fight, stay busy fight, and see how he does against another puncher. You know what I mean? Like Curtis Stevens. So those are all good choices. Andy Lee, Saunders winner, Curtis Stevens, Triple G, or the Chris Eubank Sullivan winner. Those are the fights that I think should be next. If not, a rematch with Peter Quillin would be nice too. So all great fights. Next question is from Chai702BM. Ego, how about your thoughts on a possible match up between Kid Chocolate and Canelo? I don't know if you wrote this question before Quillin got stopped or after. Don't really see it being like a feasible match, and that's really because Canelo has said in multiple interviews that he's not moving to 160 at the moment. He says he'll do it when he wants. So I think Canelo's kind of in his own zone. He knows how big of a star he is, and I don't think anyone's gonna force him to budge. So I don't think it's a realistic fight. Quillin had trouble making weight in the Andy Lee fight. He did good and came in under the 160 mark at the weigh-in versus Gennady Jacobs, but I don't know that he can make whatever Canelo weight that Canelo would want, 155, 157. So I just don't really see that being a realistic option. On top of that, they got to build him back up because he just took a loss. Again, I don't know if your question came before or after the stoppage, but I don't see Kid Chocolate and Canelo happening. Another thing is Kid Chocolate was with Al Heyman, and Canelo's with Oscar De La Hoya, and Oscar De La Hoya suing Heyman. So realistically, I don't see that fight happening, especially with the knockout, the political landscape, and those types of things. Next question is from J. Carlo91G. What do you think about Earl Spence Jr. calling out Thurman, Porter, Brooks, etc. Do you think they'll give him a shot? I hope so. And what do you think is next for Canelo? WBC extended the decision between him and Triple G until the 11th. Earl Spence first. I like it. He's young. He's strong. He's been looking good against lesser competition. It's about time he starts fighting the bigger dogs. And I'm not even saying Thurman, Porter, Brook. Those are all great fights. So if he wants to jump right into it, have at it. But I don't want to see him in there with a guy whose name we don't really know like that. Like Chris Van Helsing, Van Heerden, or whatever it is. And Barrera. I mean, he's too good for those types of guys. At least fight Andre Berto, a Josecito Lopez, Victor Ortiz type. You know what I'm saying? Somebody like that who possibly could pull the upset, has more experience than you at a pro level. That's what I want to see. But if he wants to jump right into a Keith Thurman, I've always supported that fight. And Mayweather, I think he recommended it too. If he wants to jump and he's ready, he feels he's ready for Brook or Porter, have at it. But for me, if you can't get Thurman, Porter, Brooks, or the Amir Khans, the top guys right now, at least fight the guys who are maybe just a tier below that, like the Porters, or excuse me, the Bertos, Josecito, and the guys like that I just named. So hopefully he gets something. Next part of your question, what do I think is next for Canelo? The extension, I don't even know how the WC. See, there's so many politics. The WBC did that. They're a Mexican family. They probably did it for just to show Canelo some love and give him an extension. But I really don't think he's going to fight Triple G next. So it's just a waste of time to even grant him an extension because I don't think the fight's going to happen. That's just my honest opinion. What's honestly next? I don't think Canelo's going to be there with the killer next. I don't think he's going to fight a Demetrius Andrade, a Laura rematch. I don't think he's fighting Triple G. So I would probably say maybe a middle of the road type of dude, or David Lemieux, someone who's coming off of a loss. That's what I would say. David Lemieux probably, or either that or just like a middle of the road guy that I don't know, like Kirkland rematch or something weird that shouldn't happen. That's what I see. I think Golden Boy has to be strategic. That's their cash cow, and ultimately I think they're going to try to protect their investment by putting Canelo in. He already fought Cotto, which is great. A lot of people thought Cotto would beat Canelo, but now I think it's time to go back to a fight and a stylistic fight that meshes well with Canelo's style, like a James Kirkland 2, a David Lemieux, a guy who comes. Because if you notice, Canelo does really well with guys that come to him. If you come to him and you're in his wheelhouse, that's when he'll fuck you up. You know what I mean? So, a David Lemieux, that would be a good fight that they would probably make just because stylistically that it's a real winnable fight for Canelo. Guy's coming off a loss. He has power, but I think Canelo's probably the sharper, more calculated fighter. David Lemieux's a little bit wide, so that's kind of what I see next for Canelo. If it was up to me, I would love to see Canelo versus Triple G next, or fight Laura rematch or Demetrius Andrade. That's my picks. Next question is from Mike Cock. Since streaming keeps getting easier and the quality it provides keeps getting better, since it's now available in HD with original HBO Showtime commentary, and PBC airs for free on national TV, how long till we see the next pay-per-view cash cow, like with Tyson, De La Hoya, Floyd, or Manny? Canelo was said to be the next pay-per-view cash cow, but I just don't see it, i.e. 900,000 buys, pay-per-view buys with Cotto, when both Floyd and Manny did well over 1 million sales with Cotto. Your thoughts? Damn, that's Mike Cock. Mike Cock, I get it. That's a good question. I think the whole climate and the landscape is evolved. It's changed. Like even YouTube. Just look at YouTube. When I first got on YouTube, it was way different. Now they have YouTube Music, YouTube Red. They have analytics with all these breakdowns, and they have courses you can take. It's crazy. Everything in this modern age of technology, everything is like that. It evolves at crazy speed. Cell phones, Look at the iPhone 3 and compare it to the newest iPhone. Just crazy what a couple years could do. Same thing with cars. I just got a newer car a couple months back, and it has Bluetooth, all this stuff. I had the same car in the car a little while back, but it was an older model, and the new one has Bluetooth, heated seats, and all types of stuff. I didn't have that in my old car. You know what I'm saying? So it's amazing what a couple years could do. So I think the whole streaming era, I think people will still buy fights, and fights can still do, like Mayweather Cotto did 1.4 million. Fights can still do that, but it's gonna take more. It's gonna take better build-ups. Like if you look at the two major fight cards, this is my opinion. You look at the two major fight cards this year, we didn't even like the undercards. Mayweather Pacquiao, even though I still did phenomenal numbers and astronomical numbers, the undercard sucked. You know what I mean? Not that everyone on the card sucked. You had Lomachenko, you had Leo Santa Cruz and stuff like that, but who they were fighting was whack. You know what I mean? Imagine if they put Abner Mares versus Leo Santa Cruz on the Mayweather Pacquiao undercard. That would have been great. Or Vasil Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. You know what I mean? Something like that. Or Nicholas Walters Lomachenko on the undercard. Those would have all been great options, but they didn't do that. Nor did they have the press conference open to the public in that Mayweather Pacquiao, the early press conferences and stuff like that. So I think they handled some of the stuff wrong. Same thing with Cotto Canelo. Undercard was, Francisco Vargas, that turned out to be a fight of the year and a great fight. His fight with the Japanese dude. However, on paper, nobody was really, truly checking for it other than Team Vargas and maybe some of his supporters or whatever. But I didn't hear one person make a video about, hey, check out for Francisco Vargas's Miura fight. You know what I'm saying? No one was really talking about it. So they gotta do more. You have to put on spectacles. You have to get people's interest. You have to have time to prep. Like even the Mayweather Pacquiao, the shit took so long to negotiate or whatever that they didn't have that much time to prep. You know what I mean? They didn't even have a 24/7 with both of them on it, like together. You know what I'm saying? So I think they just have to keep that in mind. Pay-per-views now with PBC should be far and few in between. There should probably be less pay-per-views because not everyone's paying. Plus you got streaming. But if it's worth it, or like basically if you're going to do a pay-per-view and that's what's decided, make it worth everybody's while to get it. Make sure the buildup is real. Like if, like let's say Canelo was fighting Triple G in September of next year, they could put them on the same card together, have Canelo main event, co-main event, Triple G, and build up the hype, and then they both win their fights, and then they fight in the fall or whatever, or you know what I mean, and Canelo wants to fight in the Mexican Independence Day weekend in September. You know what I mean? That's how they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to make it an event. You know what I mean? And like really build it up with the 24/7, the face-off. Get back to, like, honestly, I've been disappointed with the face-offs recently. Just Cotto Canelo face-off was weak. The Triple G Lemieux face-off was weak. I had way more fun watching Sky Sports Anthony Joshua Dillian White one. So I think they just have to get back to the entertainment side. You know what I mean? Especially if these guys are just trying to be humble. Like, you know what I mean? Triple G's a humble guy, and he's not like a trash talker or anything. So that means the networks and promoters got to do more to build up the anticipation, because that's part of what that WWE feel. And even Mayorga slapping Shane Mosley's girlfriend's butt, stuff like that, that gets headlines, that becomes a trending topic. So pay-per-view can still be prevalent, but I think they have to do more for it to hit those types of numbers, 1 million plus. And it has to be the right matchups. No one's trying to pay for no bullshit, especially with PBC, like you said, and free boxing on free TV. So I would just say use pay-per-view sparingly. You can have a future star, but you just got to build them up right and don't prematurely throw them out there. Like if Terrence Crawford is the next one, put him in the right types of fights, give him the right type of platforms to showcase his skill, and then when the time is ready, then you make the jump. Unlike Triple G Lemieux, they try to jump him in to a pay-per-view star, and he wasn't ready, and it's apparent that he wasn't ready. Golovkin wasn't ready because of the numbers. Because if you're truly a pay-per-view star, then you should be able to carry your opponents like slack. Like we're talking about Triple G Lemieux. Okay, Lemieux might not be a big star in the States, but the fight did 97 to 150,000. That's abysmal. Robert Guerrero, see, this I know my boxing. Mayweather, he was in jail for pleading guilty in the domestic violence thing. He was in jail after the Cotto fight. His comeback fight was against Robert Guerrero, and and this was his first fight with Showtime, and Floyd Mayweather didn't even do a press tour with Robert Guerrero. Robert Guerrero, if you remember, was doing all the promotion by himself. Floyd was just getting in shape, just training, and kind of under the radar, maybe doing a interview occasionally. But Robert Guerrero was doing it. And Robert Guerrero is not, at that time especially, wasn't a huge star. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't just like the most well-known, like a Canelo or something. And Mayweather didn't even promote it with him. And that still did better than Triple G Lemieux. So that tells you that Triple G wasn't ready. It was premature because he did less than 150,000, and Mayweather, a proven star, someone we know is a pay-per-view cash cow, didn't even help Robert Guerrero promote the fight, really. He was with Showtime, so it was the first time that he was pairing with that network, and it did way better numbers than Triple G Lemieux. So, again, you got to wait for the pay-per-view train to show up. You can't just make it happen, and that's what I feel. So, I think there could still be pay-per-views. It just, fans aren't trying to buy the bullshit. It has to be the right fight. You know what I'm saying? It has to be the right matchup. Like if you put Keith Thurman in there with Kell Brook, I think that could be a pay-per-view fight. But you would have to market it right. You'd have to make the right undercard and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And maybe not if it happened next. Like let's say Keith Thurman beat Sean Porter, Kell Brook beat Diego Chavez, and then later in the year, you put them on the card together and you make that a pay-per-view. I think you could possibly do something like that. It just has to be, the timing has to be right, and people have to be impressed with the chain of events. So I think pay-per-views kind of going away, but it could still work. People could still hit over 1 million. It just has to be the right event. And the final question is from Self Surf. Repost because I'm wondering if Ego will actually answer. Don't challenge me. Of course I'll answer. I have nothing to hide or reason to not answer. But, hey, Ego, why do you believe that minorities being hated on in boxing is causation and not correlation of race? I believe Floyd Mayweather Jr., Danny Swift Garcia, Adonis, and Wilder are hated on because of their personality antics, not of their ethnicity. When people clamor for the next great American heavyweight, what are they thinking about the next white American heavyweight? When people look back on American heavyweight champion, are they ignoring Tyson, Holyfield, Norton, Frazier, Foreman, Liston, Lewis, Patterson, and just talk about the white champions like Bear, Dempsey, Schmeling, Marciano? For whatever reason, I think you're looking for an issue in race when there isn't one. Do you really think Triple G, Pacquiao, or Klitschko are beloved because of the color of their skin? What about Hagler, Ray, Leonard, Hearn? Were they hated or looked back with vitriol because of the color of their skin? Yes. Or are they championed and beloved because of their style, tenacity, and showmanship despite all of them being black? A bunch of anonymous keyboard warriors on Twitter don't represent actual boxing fans' ego, but for whatever reason, you seem to only consider the opinion of that particular bubble. So I'm not even really understanding the question, but I guess I'll try to explain. Bottom line, I don't care. You left a very detailed, long passage. Shout out to that. But I don't care what anybody says. Bottom line is race plays a part in boxing. You can sweep it under the rug. You can sugarcoat it. You can turn the other cheek. You can deny it. It's a fact. And not even in boxing, in life. Race plays a part. Not with everybody, not with every situation, but it happens. So I think you're undermining the actual, I don't know what race you are, but you're undermining the actual facts of the matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't even know what nationality I am fully, right? And they don't like what I say. Some people just put, oh, you nigger, Ego, stuff like that. So there's no other reason for those types of comments if race is not a part of boxing. You know what I'm saying? Why would someone get called a monkey or a nigger in a video because you don't like what they had to say? They didn't say anything racist to anybody's race. They didn't slander anybody. So that's one example of how boxing is infused with race, and you can see it. Another example, you look at, and it's not just black and white, you know what I'm saying? This is race in general. Look at when there's a Mexican fighter versus a Puerto Rican fighter, like Cotto versus Canelo. Go read the comments on any of their videos. You'll see Puerto Rican people slandering Mexican fighters and Mexican people. You'll see Mexican people slandering and talking about Puerto Ricans. I've seen people calling Miguel Cotto Miguel Joto, which is basically like a bitch. They were saying, oh, Puerto Ricans are weaker, Mexicans rule. They were saying, oh, Puerto Ricans are the best and this. You know what I'm saying? You see that. So you mean to tell me, despite that long passage that you wrote, that that's just coming from nothing and race is not involved? Why are there Mexican fans going at it with Puerto Rican fans? Why are there black fans going at it at white fans, vice versa? You know what I'm saying? So again, race plays a part. I don't care what anyone says. I'm not in everything. It doesn't make sense. Like, here's another prime example to shut down what it sounds like you're trying to attempt to gain or speculate with. Floyd Mayweather Jr., Denny Swift Garcia, and Adonis and Wilder. You said they're hated because their personalities and antics, right? Not their ethnicity. So, first of all, the boxing is about what you do in the square circle. So why do you care if Floyd Mayweather burns his own money? That's not your money. You didn't earn it. Why would you care? What does that have to do with you or any other fan? So that's already stupid. Like, why do you care about their personality and antics? Like, you know what I'm saying? If, like, let's say there's a doctor and he's the best surgeon in town, but he dates a lot of women and he's a player type. What the fuck does that have to do with him being a doctor and a hell of a surgeon? You know what I mean? As long as he's not doing anything that's malpractice or against like the code of ethics, then who cares what he does in his if he's a guy who dates 3 or 4 women at a time. You know what I'm saying? So the whole personality antics argument is dumb. Another example of that is you see other people with those same personalities and antics and they're loved. Conor McGregor talks a lot of shit in the UFC. Ronda Rousey talked a lot of shit in the UFC. And you didn't see the outcry. You didn't see people like, oh, I hate him. Like, I see people literally say, I hate Mayweather. Why? Oh, because he's a trash talker. But so is Conor McGregor. He just said he'll whoop Jesus. Right? And I don't really hear anybody talking. You know what I mean? You see a couple people, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? Or people hate Broner. Oh, I hate Adrian Broner. I hate Mayweather. Why? Because they trash talk. But then when somebody else, let's say Margarito and Brandon Rios, they were making fun of Freddie Roach's Parkinson's. Was that okay? You know what I'm saying? And I didn't hear an outcry for that. Or you look at, I mean, you can do this all day. For every, without a left, there's a left and there's a right. You know what I'm saying? So you always have polar opposites of the spectrum. You look at Mayweather and Broner. Okay, they're too flashy, flamboyant, and cocky. Then you look at Terrence Crawford or Timothy Bradley. Family-oriented guys, sense of humor, personality, but humble. And you don't see a lot of people. They booed Bradley versus Rios. The crowd booed him when they in the Bradley Rios. If you don't believe me, go watch the HBO telecast. They booed Bradley. Bradley has a great resume. Bradley is a warrior. He showed heart. He showed chin, and he's humble. He's not doing a bunch of trash talking like that, like Broner. You know what I'm saying? He's not being unsportsmanlike and not shaking Sean Porter's hand, things like that. So why did he get booed? You know what I mean? Why don't some of the fans resonate with him? Again, race has a part in it, whether you or anybody else want to accept it or refuse to accept it. It is what it is. Terrence Crawford is a good kid. You know what I mean? I met the dude. Nice, humble. He's not out there just talking a bunch of shit. And you don't even hear a lot of people talk about him like they do with another person. You know what I'm saying? So, bottom line, race, whatever your race, Mexican, Irish, white, black, Chinese, Japanese, Puerto Rican, Kazakhstanian, race plays a part in boxing. Russian, it don't matter. And that's what it is. Like, race is a part of boxing. as and you said Ray Leonard and Hearn, Hagler. And this is the thing that kills me. A lot of people act like historians, but most of us weren't even alive during that timepiece. You know what I'm saying? So how do you know what the consensus was? How do you know what YouTube didn't exist, so it's not like you can go to Hagler Hearn's video that was uploaded in '83. You know what I'm saying? And see what people were saying back then. So realistically, how would you know? Especially since that's like, how old are you? You know what I mean? So if that's not your era, how would you even know? How would you know what was being said about Muhammad Ali or Hagler Hearns? I don't. I'm not that old. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't covering boxing and stuff in the 70s and 80s. You know what I'm saying? So again, to me, that's neither here nor there. And now it doesn't matter because they're regarded as legends because their careers are over. They're no longer threats to anybody. If Sugar Ray Leonard was still fighting in the weight division and Pacquiao was in the weight division, you damn straight, I guarantee you, you would have some of the diehard fans hating on Sugar Ray Leonard. Like, oh, he's a bitch, Pacquiao will whoop him, and he thinks he's so clean cut and this, and you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. And I'm not saying this is not black, white. Again, this is all races. All races. In some shape, some fashion, some form, it happens. Again, you can answer your own question, really. You said, oh, why are they hated? Why do you think they're hated on? Because their personality and antics. It's like Mayweather. He trash talks, people hate him for it. Then he doesn't trash talk versus Pacquiao. They still hate him and say he's a trash talker. But Ricardo Mayorga is the king of trash talk. He blows cigarette smoke in your face in the middle of you talking. He slaps you. He says he's going to make love to your wife and all types of weird stuff. And your wife is going to cry when she sees your face is disfigured. And they love Ricardo Mayorga. People love him. And they're like, yeah, this is good stuff. But why is it not good stuff when Broner does it? Or Mayweather? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I believe race has a part in boxing. Because there's inequality. And there's a lot of double standards. What flies with one fighter doesn't fly with another one. And again, I'm not just saying it's black, white, or any particular race. I just know that race is a part of boxing. Let me know what you guys think. Monday Mail Day. I try to cover a lot of questions. Drop it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.